Philo, and I am the author of the Caregiver's Notebook, an organizational tool to help you and support to help you care for others. We are in episode 2 of our how-to series on filling out the Caregiver's Notebook. If you are the kind of person who likes to do everything in order, you might want to look down beneath this vlog, this video, and find the link that takes you to the introduction, which was episode 1. You can go and watch that and come back here then when you're ready. Today we are going to be working on the emergency information section of the book. I'm going to take a look at mine and show you a few things about it. There's a lovely devotional here that comes from Wendy Wallace's book, Doing Well at Being Sick. And then you turn the page and get to the actual emergency information section, the tab. You go one past that tab, you will find some how-to information. And I'm going to go over a few of the tips that will ease your stress, I think, as you work on this section of the book and all the other sections of the notebook. First of all, I recommend that you use pencil in this book. That will help it keep from getting outdated as quickly, because when things change, and they do, more than we like to think, then you can just erase the old information and update it again in pencil. Now, I'm a little bit obsessive about it, and I have to always use my little mechanical pencils that I get at Staples, but I think you can get them anywhere else, and they're actually architectural mechanical pencils, and they last forever, and they're really sharp. I really like those. But you use whatever you want. You don't have to take my obsessions on to be your own. Another thing that you really need to do with this notebook, and I alluded to this before, is check this information and update it about every 3 months. Now, here's how you can remember to do it, because as you know and I know, we won't remember it if we just say, 3 months, I got to look at this again. Just immediately, if you're using the calendar in this book already, we'll talk more about that in the next episode, but if you're using this calendar, just flip forward 3 months and write a note on the date when you need to update the calendar. You can also, if you use Google Calendar, you can put it in your phone. If you use iCal, anything from, if you're a Mac user and you use their calendar system, you can put it there. You can even have them send you an email if that works better, or a text, whatever you want, so that you remember to come back every 3 months and update that. And then when you update it in 3 months, give yourself a note for 3 months forward. Do that all the rest of the time that you're doing this caregiving gig. Another really important thing to remember is you should not write, and you will not find in this book anywhere, a place for you to write your loved one's social security number. If you're taking this with you to the hospital or the doctor's office or whatever, there are just too many opportunities for somebody to open the book and see that. So you need to house that somewhere else. Now, I recommend if you've got a cell phone, just go in your cell phone and put in your loved one's name and their phone number, whatever it is. And you know how it has a place for the mobile phone number and the work phone number. Just in one of those, put that loved one's social security number instead. You're the only one who's going to know what that is. And then you can find it whenever you need it. All right, now let's get right to how you will go about filling in this page. You see at the very top, the section in the book that you're going to fill in first is just basic information. Your loved one's name, address, email if they've got it, and you just fill in the ones that are appropriate. There's room for a home phone, a work phone, and a cell phone if you need it. Date of birth, sex, blood type, height, weight, eye color, if they're an organ donor, where that information is housed. There's a little bit more room there for allergies, dietary restrictions, and diagnosis. Remember, this is emergency information. So the things you need to put in this section on this page are just the things that really need to be known in an emergency. You aren't going to get into everything. And then there is a slot there for primary language, which can be very important depending on your loved one's background. So you're going to get that information filled in, and it may take you a little bit. You know, I don't know. I'm not sure I even know what my blood type is. So I might need to call my doctor's office or whatever as I'm filling out my book and get that information from there. Or if you have, like we have my chart now, I might be able to look in there at some of the information about me and find it from there. Okay, then at the bottom of the first page, there is a place for you to list the caregivers. There's room for 3 caregivers. So whoever are the primary caregivers for your loved one, you might like to write that down. Now, it might be a family member, like probably you, and maybe your spouse or somebody else that helps out. But it also could be someone, if you have a nurse or an in-home health aide that comes in, you might want to list one of those people too. It's totally up to you. Now, on the second page, we have contact information. So there's room for a primary contact, a second contact, and a third contact. I kind of like to think of this as during my teaching days where we had to list, or my parenting days when at school I had to list 3 contacts in case they couldn't get a hold of the first 2 and my child was sick. And then for each contact, there's a place to write their name, their relationship to the patient, that person's address, email, and again, the 3 different types of phone numbers. There's also room at the bottom of the second page for, and this applies especially if we're talking about adults, the attorney's name and phone number. And then there's a place where you can check if it's a trust, if you have a do not intubate order, a living will, durable power of attorney, or do not resuscitate. If you have any of those forms, you check those, and then there's boxes down a little bit lower to explain where that information is housed. Now, if you're a little bit confused and you're thinking, I don't have any of those items yet, you can go, we'll be talking about all of that a little bit more later on when we get to the section on legal documents, but you can get a heads up on that now. If you just go and do an internet search and type in the name of your state and then durable power of attorney form, you should, and then search, you should be able to find a downloadable form that you can print out. The same is true if you need a medical power of attorney, a living will, do not intubate, do not resuscitate, any of those things. Just type in your state and look, and then the form that you're looking for, and you should find downloadable forms. It's important that you do it for the state where your loved one lives, because every state is a little bit different and they will only follow their own orders. So you can get those downloaded. You can fill them out if you want before we get to the section on legal documents. Most of those need to be notarized, so you would need to take them to a notary. We always go to our bank and get that done because it's free, because we bank there. And then you'll have those ready. We'll talk more about what you do with those when we get to that section of the notebook, as I mentioned before. Now, the last thing you want to do when you get all of this filled out is you want to create some emergency information packets. You'll take these pages that you filled out and just go and get photocopies made. Get as many photocopies as you want packets. Once you get all the legal information filled in, especially the new do not intubate, the do not resuscitate, living will, those kinds of things that would be important, especially if you're caring for a medically fragile person who may be hospitalized and perhaps dealing with terminal situations. You want to get all that information copied, all those forms copied, and make packets, put them in an envelope or whatever, and give them to whoever needs them. For example, in our situation, my mother lives with my brother, but she comes and visits us sometimes, and she visits my sister sometimes. So whenever that visit happens, we would send a packet so it's with her wherever she is. If you have a child who's in school, you might want to send a packet to school. If you are caring for someone who goes to, say, an adult daycare, you might want to have that there. And then you always want to pack it in your notebook here, and there are some pocket pages in the back if you want to just slip them in there. You always want that, because if you do end up in an emergency hospital situation, you want to hand that information to the hospital staff so they put it with the chart. And you want to make sure that you bring that to the attention of everyone who works with your loved one. So that's how you fill out the emergency information section. You might need a week to get everything rounded up and figured out and written down. But it will be such a good feeling when you have it done. If you get nothing else done in this notebook, but you get the emergency information finished and you create those emergency packets and keep them up to date, you have done a wonderful thing. And that's going to lift the stress off you in a major way. And that's the whole idea of this notebook. Now, if you have some questions about what I said, if something wasn't clear enough, or you want to know more information, go to the comments section at the bottom of this blog page and you can write your questions. You can leave a comment. If you have some other tips you want to share, leave them there too, because we can always learn from one another. And this is the end of episode 2 of How to Fill Out the Caregiver's Notebook. I hope you come back for episode 3, which will be about, let me see, filling out the calendar. So, until next time, I hope you have a lot of fun and get all this filled out and feel the stress just rising off your shoulders. And then you can just sit back for a day or an hour or 5 minutes and eat bonbons by the swimming pool. Have a good